Good morning. Welcome to the Pontifical Academy of Sciences. It's an old institution since 1603, focusing on science, trying to find truth, in search for truth. So we are looked upon by Galileo and Pope Francis and Pius XI. Pius XI, by the way, reformed this academy to one of the most modern in the 1930s in the world, independent of political, religious, gender backgrounds. So we owe him quite a bit. Thank you for joining this conference to address food and humanitarian crisis. It's not the first time that this academy addresses food issues, but this conference today is special also for us. We bring together academics, practitioners, senior policymakers, representatives from civil society. A special warm welcome to you, Excellency, WFP Executive Director Cindy McCain, who will address us in a moment. I also want to recognize former Prime Minister Haile Mariam Boshe from Ethiopia, former Prime Minister Roman Razas from Jordan, former WFP Executive Director Catherine Bertini, and former Minister of Foreign Affairs Nicolas from Haiti. So we purposely invited experienced senior policymakers who have a broad view and perspective and have looked into and experienced themselves humanitarian crises in the context of their regions or countries. I want to recognize the intellectual support we received from colleagues at FAO, especially you, Maximo. Thank you. From the CGIAR, the Consultative Group for International Agricultural Research. From academies of sciences, such as you, Mohammed, President of the Academy of Science from Sudan, and civil society organizations, WHH, Welthungerhilfe, Bettina Isili, you were very helpful with your network of practitioners. What do we want to get done in this workshop and in the follow-up to it? We need follow-up to this workshop. First, we want to generate and share insights that can help mitigate and prevent humanitarian and food crises. We note that all crises have unique aspects to them. History matters in their context. But there are also patterns which we want to understand. We need to understand causalities. And we want to focus on solutions. We want to focus on solutions. That's vital. It requires probably attention to solutions in policy, technology, institutional innovations, and a much higher and more flexible financial resources at an international level. Innovations in policy, technology, and institutions must be guided by science, social science, natural science, and be adapted to local context. That may include that we deliberate on redesigning emergency aid intervention, that we take a careful account of the opportunities to explicitly integrate local populations in transformative policy, because they know a lot, not to say they know best. Women's empowerment in local and national context is important to increase local agency, and we hope to engage indigenous peoples concept in resilience approaches. And in addition, governance and management of humanitarian and food crisis requires consideration in the context of thinking about reforms. Why science? What role is science in all this? Science has engaged in understanding, researching the humanitarian and food crisis from the climate perspective, from the health perspective, and from the political economy perspective. But more is needed. Science for prevention and mitigation of humanitarian and food crisis needs to be strengthened. That's why we feel this Academy of Science should engage and is engaging, and we are grateful that you come along. Let me point at some potential research areas, because being a science body, we also want to get out of this a research agenda, a focused research, promising research agenda that has to be part of the follow-up. Let me give you 3 examples of research agenda. Research on the architecture for crisis prevention and mitigation, anticipatory humanitarian action, and related global financial support. These are complex institutional innovations requiring science. Secondly, employing science for ex-ante and real-time modeling of complex humanitarian and food crisis and response actions. The whole issue of complexity is haunting us, probably in this workshop. By the way, this academy had, about 10 years ago, a conference on science of complexity. So I think we need to draw on basic science there too. And third, research on institutional and organizational change and innovations to address crises may be on our agenda. What brings us together is taking notes that the high and growing prevalence and scale of food and humanitarian crisis are a shame for humanity, a shame for humanity. Must be addressed, this shameful situation. When governments fail to address the issues, other options to engage must be looked for, such as alliances of civil society, religious communities, and science. Faith and science cooperation is a critical and can be a critical element in overcoming humanitarian crisis. Thank you to all who have already sent in their papers. Most of you did so. The rest have promised to send them later. And a book will come out of this, and that will be important material for all our groups sitting here and their clientele. Dear Cardinal Turkson, I would like to ask you to now welcome our community. Thank you for coming again.